the Earth, the blue planet, home to the only life forms known so far in the universe. Scientists estimate that about 10 quintillion individual insects live on this planet. Only a few of them live in our backyards. But what happens when most of them disappear? They crawl on leaves. They fly through the air. They even dig in the ground. Insects are the largest group of animals on Earth. Nearly 1 million species have been identified so far. They are often a nuisance to us humans. But without insects, life on Earth as we know it would hardly be conceivable. Without insects to eat, most reptiles and amphibians and about half of all bird species would have no basis for life. They are also very important for humans. Insects pollinate at least 1/3 of the world's crops. Honeybees, for example, are clearly among the most important pollinators. Other animals such as bats, birds, and reptiles also help to pollinate plants. But insects play the decisive role. Insects hatch from eggs. Some hatch as small versions of the adults of their species. Others go through an incredible transformation before they reach adulthood. This is called metamorphosis. The most famous example of insect metamorphosis is the butterfly. Butterflies start life as caterpillars. They spend a few weeks eating and growing in size. They eat voraciously to convert plant material into the tissues they will need for metamorphosis. Caterpillars have no bones. Instead, they have a hard outer shell called an exoskeleton that gives them their structure. This exoskeleton is made of chitin, a material that has very limited extensibility. Therefore, it must shed its exoskeleton 4 to 5 times, with each molt often changing the coloration and appearance of the caterpillar. Nutrition is important for rapid growth. Therefore, nothing is wasted and the striped skin is eaten first, before returning to its favorite food plants and continuing to eat as if there is no tomorrow. When fully grown, the caterpillars seek a place where they will be safe from predators. They attach themselves to the underside of a leaf or branch with a silky thread. Only the choice of a safe hiding place protects the caterpillar from its enemies. After a few hours of apparent rest, rhythmic movements begin to run through the body. Finally, the skin bursts and a completely different creature emerges. Fortunately, this little fellow has chosen a spot at a safe distance from the wary lizards. Once the skin is completely shed, the chrysalis hardens into a protective shell, and inside begins one of nature's most fascinating processes. First, the caterpillar digests itself, releasing enzymes that dissolve all its tissues. Once the caterpillar has dissolved all its tissues, a new process uses the protein-rich soup to fuel the rapid cell division needed to form the wings and all the other features of an adult butterfly. After a few weeks, the outline of the adult butterfly can be seen through the surface of the pupal skin. The butterfly cannot fly yet. It hangs upside down, pumping fluid into its wings to make them expand and slowly opening and closing them to help them dry. Not all butterflies are able to emerge from the chrysalis. This little guy is desperately trying to break the shell, but the cocoon will not burst. After hours, the shell finally cracks, but the butterfly is exhausted. It will not survive. Butterflies are the only group of insects that have scales on their wings. They also differ from other insects in their ability to roll up their proboscis. Butterflies seem to have excellent vision, especially over short distances. They are able to fly with precision in areas with many obstacles. Butterflies are undoubtedly one of nature's most beautiful creatures, with colors and patterns that are enjoyed by humans throughout most of the year. However, it is their bright colors and visits to flowers that make butterflies the most familiar of insects to humans. The beauty of the butterfly and its ability to transform from a crawling caterpillar to a flying adult is almost magical. In many cultures and traditions around the world, butterflies are a symbol of the soul. Aristotle made the first recorded use of the word psyche, meaning the human soul, in reference to a butterfly. In Greek mythology, Psyche, the goddess of the soul, is often depicted with a butterfly. Later in Christianity, the life of the butterfly and its transformative cycle is often seen as a metaphor for the process of birth, death, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. But in art history, butterflies have also been warning symbols. Butterflies remind us of the transience of life and the abundance for which we sacrifice our environment. Butterflies are seen as indicators of a healthy environment. They are an essential part of our landscape, something like the soul of nature. But scientists have documented a dramatic decline in butterflies in Europe. Many have disappeared, many are threatened with extinction. Only a few are benefiting from the warming climate. Their disappearance is an unmistakable sign of biodiversity loss. Butterflies, representative of all insects, have truly become one of the warning signs of the climate crisis and insect extinction. Several scientific studies show a drastic loss of insect species worldwide. In the last 20 years, their biomass has fallen by an alarming 70 to 80%, depending on the region. Species loss has been most severe in grasslands around intensively farmed areas, but also in forests and protected areas. Many species are thought to be extinct, and many more are threatened. It is true that new studies contradict previous scientific findings by relativizing the extent of species extinction and pointing to regional differences. Not all species are affected to the same extent, but the fact is, and all experts agree, that the total biomass of insects is declining sharply. Even for us laymen, this is easy to understand. If you've been driving for a few decades, you may have noticed that the remains of unfortunate flies, moths, and beetles don't end up on your windscreen as often as they used to. It's a trend known as the windshield phenomenon, and it's evidence for all to see of rapidly declining insect populations around the world. Several factors have contributed to the decline in insect populations. These include increasing urbanization, urban sprawl, and light pollution. Climate change undoubtedly also plays a major role, especially extreme weather events such as floods and droughts, which are likely to increase in intensity, duration, and frequency in the future. The scientists identified industrial agriculture, monocultures, massively over-fertilized soils, and in particular, the use of highly effective pesticides as the main causes of insect decline. But agriculture is not the only culprit. Many private gardens still use far too many insecticides and herbicides, often for the sake of convenience. Insects are a vital part of the food chain. Without them, many amphibians, birds, fish, and countless other animal and plant species would disappear. Without these six-legged creatures, entire habitats become impoverished and our world becomes monotonous and colorless. Bees, moths, beetles, and butterflies are responsible for pollinating more than a third of the world's food crops. Insects are also a very important part of the decomposition process, returning nutrients from dead plants and animals to the soil. Even if we could convert agriculture to manual or wind-only pollination, most ecosystems and our livelihoods would collapse like a house of cards. $8 billion people live on the planet today. They all take up living space, need shelter, energy, clean water, and food. Providing food without industrialized agriculture is unthinkable, and certainly not without fertilizer, and the certainty that the seeds you plant will grow to harvest. So blaming one industry or another for species extinction, global warming, and many other threats misses the point. We all share responsibility for the way we wallow in abundance. Greed and avarice are to blame, coupled with the demand to have everything available at all times and in perfect quality. In our relentless pursuit of constant growth, we humans are destroying our own livelihoods. Our windscreens may look clean and empty in a future with few insects, but our grocery stores will be much emptier too. There have been several major extinctions throughout Earth's history. The most prominent example is the dinosaurs, which became extinct following an asteroid impact. Today we speak of 5 major events that wiped out a large proportion of biological species. After these events, new communities arose that were at least as diverse. However, it took many millions of years for stable ecosystems to develop. We are now in the midst of the 6th great mass extinction, one that we humans ourselves have triggered since the beginning of the 20th century. With our unprecedented exploitation of nature, the global rate of species extinction is already 10 to 100 times faster than the average for the last 10 million years, and it accelerates more and more. Bees are seen as hardworking and useful, and ladybugs as little lucky charms. However, we classify most insects as pests. There is no doubt that they are often a nuisance, and there is no doubt that insects can sometimes cause considerable economic and health damage. And let's face it, most people are disgusted by insects and simply don't want anything to do with the often very bizarre-looking buggers. However, insects deserve our respect, just like other animals to which we tend to feel more attached. After all, even those who dislike these lively 6-legged creatures should remember that they make a significant contribution to our prosperity. A lack of ant activity in the soil, for example, would cause cocoa yields to drop by half and prices to rise massively. Researchers at the University of Hohenheim in Stuttgart have also calculated that the economic output of these animals is equivalent to $1 trillion a year, or about 1% of the world's gross national product. Biodiversity is invaluable to us. Intact ecosystems provide food, clean air, drinking water, and fertile soil. They are the very basis of our lives. Their ecosystem services benefit us and our environment. They directly improve our well-being and are central to the production and security of our food. But with the loss of animals, plants, and microorganisms, ecosystems are increasingly losing their ability to provide us with their vital services. Yet intact biodiversity is our strongest ally in adapting to the impacts of climate change. We live in a high-tech society, with access to information and knowledge like never before in human history. But prosperity makes us selfish. With blind arrogance, we trust in our technological achievements. At the same time, we deny the findings of science and our own observations. we know that we cannot, or can only partially, replace most of nature's contributions to us humans. We also know that without insects, we will never be able to feed the world's population, much of which is already suffering from hunger. Yet we continue to drive these important six-legged creatures out of our environment with highly effective poisons. This is despite the fact that we are slowly learning how important these animals are for functioning ecosystems. New scientific evidence should lead us to take better care of the environment and our food, and to appreciate what nature has to offer us on our own doorstep. But it's not too late. We still have the chance to break new ground. Let us finally use our knowledge and take care of our environment with a more modest lifestyle, so that future generations will also be able to see the many butterflies that dance across our fields, our meadows, and our gardens.